How many people here are at your first tech conference? So we've got some vets in the room. So invariably, at a lot of tech conferences that I've been to, not anything put on by Automation Anywhere, but the other folks, you would have the senior leadership of these organizations up on stage talking about the amazing transformations that they drove for their clients. And what would typically then happen is my phone would light up and I'd get text messages from a bunch of partners going, dude, we built that. I'm like, I get it. And so we all know that Automation Anywhere makes the best automation software on the planet. However, our partners and our customers are truly the engine behind driving transformation and customer success. And so what I want to do is have a session today called How We Built This that really celebrates those successes and gives the people who drove it an opportunity to really talk to you about that. So without any further ado, I'm going to call up to the stage Cognizant and Cencora. Marisa, David.
Thank you so much, Ben, for having us. And Dave, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited for everyone to hear a little bit about the story you have at Cencora. And maybe we start there. Can you share just a little bit around the journey you've been on and some of the outcomes that you've been experiencing?
Yeah, no, definitely. So when you first asked me this question was, what was the business problem? And I thought about it. I had this great use case, tons of savings. Then I found another use case, tons of savings. I took a step back and said, what's our actual goal with this? And quite frankly, automation allowed us to transform our entire thought process. So our business problem, or quite frankly, business opportunity, was how do you address the 3 E's that we call them, right? So it's efficiency, effectiveness, and experience. And I think it's universal across the board here. And with automation, it allowed us to be flexible and nimble in how we address it. But for the first time, we had a tool set that allow us to go into different processes, different businesses, and look for opportunities. So with that, we're able to do over 100 automations across 24 different business units, process areas. And that's actually less than 20% of our opportunity already. So it was a great opportunity, and it changed our mindset. Before, we had a tool that had a definitive, say, problem statement. Now you actually go to a process area and say, all right, what's your problems, and maybe I can help you with it. I would say 9 times out of 10, we can do something.
You know, I think the one piece that really stood out for me is 2 things, actually. 2 things stand out for me. I think the first is how you've gone about your automation program, and the second is how you've brought your business partners and technology teams together. Could you share a little bit about how you've approached both of those areas?
Yeah, definitely. So I sit in the business, so I sit in finance, so that helped right there. But secondarily, we pull our business analysts from the business. So we have former experts, leaders in different areas of the business that help kind of identify the solutions, identify the opportunities, and that creates that bridge. And IT has been a huge partner in this, but we're both kind of doing it at the same time. We lead from the business, the process areas, and IT can help support to enable it. And I think with most things, if the business helps lead it, that's the tipping point. That's how you're going to make a difference. You can't always be pushing it. Kind of has a little pull from the business as well.
No, I think that's fabulous. And I think the other thing is how you've thought about working with your business partners, how you've focused on moving them forward while balancing at the same time ensuring that they felt ROI, even though you were making sure they were staying abreast of whatever was next in industry. Maybe you can just share a little bit about how you've balanced strategy, forward thinking, and also recognizing results.
No, that's a good point. So obviously, whenever you do something like this, the challenge is if you go into, say, a process area, you want to maintain that ownership of the process. So we're there to help. We're assistants. I think digital assistants is probably the most common term used out there. And that's a key component. So we're there to help them, but they maintain that ownership of the process. And so we keep them along with, hey, here's opportunities, but it's also a joint conversation. It's really that true sense of partnership.
And I think you teed up the next question perfectly. Can you share a little bit around partnerships, how you've worked with Automation Anywhere and Cognizant, in general, how you're partnering as you move forward? I think that you've really had a nice focus on bringing everyone together, and maybe you could share a little bit more details around that.
Now, it's a great call out. So I think over the past 2 days, we've heard everything Automation Anywhere is looking to do to move the industry forward. And that's one reason why we chose them. But it's not the reason. And same thing with Cognizant. You look for true partners, someone you can actually have the tough conversations with, that you're going to have, you feel comfortable being the speed of trust. And that is not always the leader in the marketplace. Sometimes we don't choose the leaders in the marketplace because they don't fit our culture. They don't have that speed of trust. And you have to be able to trust your partners in the truest sense of the form. And that's why we chose both Automation Anywhere and Cognizant to help us along the journey.
And as you're starting to really look forward and you're thinking about what's next, and of course, we look at how do we apply generative AI into what we're doing, because there's so much excitement with our leadership, so much excitement with business partners, technologists, our families, at home even. Can you talk a little bit about how you're approaching that at Cencora?
Definitely. And I'm going to say something that we're kind of told not to say. I don't know. We know a few things. We know that Gen AI expands beyond the RPA COE. We have our own COE geared towards Gen AI, and that's great. We know that to your point, it's now very topical, dinner tables. The business now is asking for it. And to me, that's the key point. Once the business is more engaged, that becomes, I think, the inflection point, that the business is drawing us forward with it. And I think this technology, especially Gen AI, is that. It's easy to talk about, not easy necessarily to implement, as we're finding out, but it's that conversation. It's the use cases. Get everyone talking about it, kind of roll in the same direction. So we don't know exactly how we're going to end up, but we know directionally what we want to do.
And I'm curious too, because I think the way you're driving a culture, you're really looking at how is it felt within the organization. What do you think the impact is going to be as you continue to drive more automation, more technology, infusing into the business, and now it's only being accelerated with Gen AI and now part of the conversation? What do you think that shift is going to be from a culture standpoint for you?
I think, like we talked before, and in the back, that this is another tool set that if you are an associate, a customer, it should be agnostic to you. It should make everything you do easier. That's our goal. From a customer experience, associate experience, I think Erica Black mentioned it, and I think we all kind of talk about it, freeing up people's time to actually do more things that I think humans are better at. It's the analysis, it's the strategy, not the document processing. That's our hope, and that's, I think, the underlying vision with everything we're doing.
I think that's fantastic, and I know you've been on this journey, I think 5 years
Yep, 5
now?
years.
So you're a veteran, you're an expert. I bet you've also had just tremendous experience along the way around some of the things that you think went exceedingly well, and maybe some things that you would have liked to pivot on if you had a chance to go back and do it again, but we always view those as lessons learned, of course. Maybe you could share the one thing that you're focused on continuing to do because it's working really well, but also the one thing that you would say, hey, this was a really good lesson learned that we had.
I think our biggest thing, quite frankly, is the business engagement. It's kind of pulling the experts from the business. I have a list of people I've identified in the business that once I have opportunities to join my team, I want to pull them in. And the more we can kind of merge the two, I think the better we are. I think that's one huge thing we've done very well. I think some of the challenges, quite frankly, is kind of maybe a little too structured at times, being afraid to fail. And I'd rather fail fast. And that's a hard thing to kind of get used to, people trying to fail. But it's the only way you learn forward. And I think that's our biggest thing going forward with Gen AI, is learn, grow, fail fast.
I have to tell you, thank you so much, and I know you've been on an amazing journey. You've seen so much success, and really looking forward to continuing to see where you're going to take the team with Cencora and all you're yet to accomplish. Thank you so much, and Ben, thank you so much for having us today.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
So a couple of really great points there. Let humans be humans, right? Let us do the things that we're really good at, and also fail fast. I've always lived by that, and I've failed fast a lot of times. Next up, we're going to hear from Sage IT and Oil-Dri. Saranjan, Kevin, you want to come on out?
Thank you, Ben. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I know there's a list of questions here, but going by our normal nature, we want to be agnostic and all of that, so we've turned it around and done something different. Okay. Two words jump out at me as we prepared for this and came up here. Absorbent and sticky. You will ask me what the hell does that mean, right? So oil dry makes absorbents that prevent slick floors, right, Kevin?
Correct.
Among many other things, but that's how they started off. And Sage IT thrives and drives innovation. That's what we do. Together, we are absorbing innovation and making it stick. Yeah. Kevin, OilDry has a history of innovation, right? Starting off from the days of taking Fuller's Earth, figuring that it's better than sawdust in preventing oil slicks, right? Now you're looking at process innovation and driving it through apps and technology. You started off with automation now. What was the driver behind choosing automation and choosing the set of processes that you did?
Well, we started our automation journey a couple of years ago just by putting process automation on our digital roadmap. And that's before we even engaged with Sage IT. That started with a couple of problems and issues that we've had in the business. We put it on the roadmap, and we didn't even start this project until a year later when we finally got the project funded, found a partner, and got the ball rolling there. So we went from having a business problem into an automated solution.
So it was a lever which was identified. You just put it on the roadmap and waited for other priorities to get addressed before you took on automation as an initiative.
Right, and the other piece of our roadmap is our ERP implementation, which we are about 5 years into our newer ERP implementation, and now that platform is stabilized. We're looking to the next step, which is automating functions within it and outside of that.
Sure. That's great. And this is just the start of the automation journey for you, right? You've selected processes that influence suppliers and employees and drive revenue and compliance, right?
That's right.
Talk to us about what kind of goals were set as you chose these set of processes.
Like I said, we're at the beginning of our journey, and the initial goals were to get a platform put in place, get a couple of bots installed as a proof of concept to make sure that we can prove that automation is a winning investment for the organization, and we've proven that, and now we're looking to expand upon that.
Sure. And now that you've gone through your first phase of implementing and experiencing automation, did you realize the goals you set for it? And what role did Sage play in your realizing those goals?
Yeah, so we went through we only have 4 bots, not 200 like some of the other folks that I've heard this weekend here, but we were able to put them in and advertise and really market the project, to market the output. The first iteration of the bots were running successfully, but we didn't really have a lot of data to show and to have the dashboards. So the second iteration of our bots was to really have the business-facing dashboards to show the output and to show the throughput. So that we can showcase, instead of saying we're working on it, it's live, it's running, but we have actual dashboards. And so with that marketing of our project and the project statuses, we were now people are coming to me and adding requests saying, I want a bot, I want a bot, I want a bot. So that is the value, and that was our proof of concept is already making my job a lot harder because we have a backlog.
That is amazing, because as consultants, advisors, we typically tell our clients that create those win themes, create those winning initiatives which will be and create momentum on their own. So you seem to have got that achievement done. So for some of the processes that we have automated so far. Can you talk to us about some of the outcomes that Oil-Dri has realized?
Yeah, so we have a bot, one in AP, one in AR, and two in the master data space. And one of the more impactful ones was on the AR side for deductions. You know, all of the bots are running, you know, with 100% data accuracy because they're just not a human doing it. There's no human error. They are running as we have designed them. But the timeliness and the time savings we get out of that, that automation specifically is the one that we were really seeing a lot of return.
So, and you mentioned this, Kevin, earlier, that one of the biggest things that at least I also have experienced in talking with your business leadership is the change in perception about automation. Now, obviously 2 years ago, you and your team had it on the roadmap, but there were some doubters, skeptics. But seeing the first wave of successes that have been delivered, now there's a line behind you saying that, hey, can I have my bot for my process, right?
That's right.
Would you say that's one of the biggest outcomes of phase one?
Absolutely. We were able to prove that it's the way forward, and we can customize our ERP, which, you know, is pretty common. And we do have multiple solutions that are available, but we have to figure out which one is the right design for the right output. And having a solution like Automation Anywhere that can bounce between multiple systems, not just within the ERP, is beneficial to really help us out. And we have to really look at this backlog to figure out which one is going to be the first and the most beneficial, rather than someone who's complaining the loudest or something like that.
Sure. Thank you. So I know we are embarking on phase two, which is another set of processes that have been put in place. If you were to look out 2 years, 3 years hence, what would you say is next in potentially the roadmap for Oil-Dri?
Yeah, so I mentioned our ERP stability, and we were focusing on new processes within the ERP space. But as you mentioned, product innovation with our R&D lab, that's a space where we can add future automation growth. ERP, R&D, and then in our plants, our OT network can greatly improve with more automation in that space as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. It's always a pleasure. Together, we'll continue absorbing innovation and making it stick.
Thank you for your partnership.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, guys. So, who else wrote down absorb innovation and make it stick? I've made a huge mental note about that. Next up, we're going to hear from Recode and Integer.
Diego, thanks for being here.
No problem.
It's a pleasure and an honor for me to talk to you about the automation journey that you are leading at Integer. How was the start? I mean, I know it was not an easy start. So how was the start?
Yeah, and first time I got the call from Ben and Prasanna, hey, do you want to talk about the journey that you've been at Integer with RPA? I was like, are you sure? Because it was a bumpy start. It was not all sunshine and rainbows. But that's part of the story, right? That's part of the journey. And everybody might have slightly different journeys, but you might start with bots that do not work. Or with, in our case, that was the case, 2 bots that we were struggling to get it running. And also with business not supporting. So before, you guys heard about people saying that, hey, you need the business support. That's guaranteed. It's a mindset shift that has to change within the business that RPA is coming to help. And that bumpy start with the 2 bots that were not really there, it evolved into a program in a little bit over 2 years with 40 plus bots in production. So bumpy start, not sunshine and rainbows, but we're definitely in a better place now.
Hindsight, it is not necessarily a bad thing to have those teething problems because you iron out the chinks in your armory. So over the last, from from 2 bots to 40 plus processes automated, and I know you have a future roadmap ironed out as well. What changed? How did you leverage the learning from your initial 2 bots and what did you bring to bear, and what changed in the last 2 years?
Yeah, no, that's a very important point. What had to change was, again, the mindset from the business. And think about it, 2 years ago, there was no Pathfinder, guys. There was no COE manager. So we had to partner not only with Recode, but also with Automation Anywhere. I brought them the problem. I brought them the problem of there's not much adoption. We have that initial excitement from the business, but then it slowly fades away. How do we fix this? And the way to fix it, again, mindset shift. It's the mindset of people understanding that, oh, the bot is not putting me out of work. It's doing what Erica showed today. It's putting my time into what truly brings value to the company and not repetitive tasks. So that's what's changed. When it finally clicked that, oh, you're not bringing the bot so that I will no longer have my job. I'll actually be able to do what I was hired for. That's what changed. And the other thing, obviously, sometimes you can say, hey, we have 10 bots, 20 bots, how many you have in production. But if you don't show the ROI, it doesn't matter to the CFO. It doesn't matter to the CEO if you can't show the proof is in the pudding. And that's what we built. There was no, again, COE manager. We built an ROI dashboard that helped us attack the backlog of potential automation opportunities. So that was the key change within the business, was changing that mindset.
Great point. You have been an evangelist within Integer, taking this automation story across to all the business leaders, and you spoke about the mindset shift. So what kind of a change? Is this like a top-down approach to the change management, or the bottom-up, or is it a hybrid? What do you think was the key thing for the mindset shift to happen?
I would say it was more of a bottoms-up. It was the business telling, hey, that Thiago guy, he talked about this automation. I would like to take a look at that. That's what drove the top of the food chain to look at RPA as a program as, oh, wait a second, there's something here. And obviously, when you show the ROI, when you're able to show how much you're actually saving, which, by the way, it's one of the biggest ROIs within the whole IT program at Integer is the RPA program. So people want to be involved. People want to participate on something that it is working. So that was one of the biggest changes, Prasanna.
What's the North Star that you are going after?
Yeah, now thinking about the future, and I think most of all are here to try to understand how can we implement Gen AI. Gen AI, I think it was said 1,000 times so far, and I have a backlog of a very healthy backlog of opportunities to automate, and some of them were put on ice because of the fact that we couldn't attack anymore. So one thing that I've learned on one of the master classes is that problems that before you couldn't solve it, take a look at it again. Now we have Gen AI, now we have Pathfinder to show you what needs to be done from a Pathfinder perspective, and in Gen AI as one of the tools to solve those problems that were unsolvable before. So that's what's next. That's what I want to take the RPA program to the next level. Not only more bots, but bots that are truly making a difference and having an impact.
Thanks. Thank you so much. It has been an incredible journey to be partnering with you, and we look forward to taking this along with you across the organization. And thanks for sharing your story as well. Thank you so much. And
Absolutely.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
points that were brought up there. Pathfinder, of course, it's great that we saw that leveraged in this project, but also, we've lost the slides. But also one of the interesting things that he pulled out was the fact that change management is really critical to the success of these things. You can have working with the best technology, have a flawless implementation, and if you don't address change within the organization, you're going to run into challenges. So next up, we're going to hear from AWS in Colombia. Jagjit, Deb.
Hi all, this is Jagjit Dhaliwal. I manage the Intelligent Automation Partnerships at AWS. I actually love this session because we specifically hear the customer real stories, all that effort which we are putting together. These are the customers who are bringing the life to it. And it helps us to see that how Automation Anywhere and AWS coming together and helping in a transformation for enterprise customers. So I'm honored to share the stage with Dave Gulati. He's head of automation at Columbia Sportswear. He has exciting things to share. So Dave, welcome, and thanks for your time. So if you don't mind, maybe if you could share your role within the Columbia Sportswear first.
Yeah, sure. So I lead process automation and consumer service technology at Columbia Sportswear. And whatever we are is thanks to the great team which we have. So I don't do anything, so they do most of it.
Great. So Dave, I know that you are going through the transformation journey for a while, and it's specifically focused on the customer experience. Maybe if we step back, can you actually talk through what were the challenges? What was that state which actually led to this transformation?
Yeah, maybe a couple of years back when we really got into it, one of the biggest challenge we had was a disjointed experience for our consumers. So, for example, when they used to come in, our systems for telephony, voice, or chat, there was no connection, and at the back end, there were multiple systems, and none of the systems used to talk to each other. And what used to happen is that, let's say, even when an agent gets a call, they were starting completely cold, so no idea about the consumer. They used to check the consumer, and then it's all civil chair at the back end, dealing with more than 10 different systems, trying to figure out what best way to respond to the consumer. So the overall experience of a consumer was not very good, and really, I'll not go to the exact figures, but in 2021, we didn't have a very good year during the holidays. Our wait time was more than 30 minutes for the calls, and handling time was very high, and consumer experience was not very good. And that's what really brought us in, that we need automation, we need to build better consumer experience.
Yeah. No, I can actually resonate that. I think Mihir touched upon this point, like on an average, like 1,000+ applications. I can imagine it's never the done state. It's always going to be legacy plus modern system, which we deal with. So how did Automation Anywhere and AWS help you in this journey so far? So how are you using these platforms?
Yes. So we started in end of 2021 into 2022, and our main intention was to bring as much automation as possible at the back-end side of it. So that's where we started first. And we identified more than, I think it was around 96 different consumer journeys we were focusing on. And our intent was how much of that we can automate and take the civil chair out of it as much as possible. We did a lot of that, and the end result of that was by 2022, our average wait time fell below 1 minute from plus 30 minutes. So that was the big achievement. Handling time was much better. We are already seeing very good metrics on that. Consumer experience improved, but we are still not there. There is a lot which can be done. This is where we are bringing in Service Cloud. We are implementing Service Cloud now. And our intention is that how can we try to get into a single unified system rather than having those disjointed experiences, right? So that's where AWS and Amazon Connect for our voice automation, Lex for chat automation, and Automation Anywhere at the back end, which actually is the hands of it. So Mihir brought this point up very well yesterday, is that use AI as a brain So a lot of that AI is facilitated on an AWS ecosystem. And a lot of those hands are actually automation anyway. So that's what we are after, and hope it goes well.
No, I think, in the way I understand, looks like you are completely abstracting the technologies, all the disparate systems you have, so that the business can focus on a process and they don't need to worry about what's behind the scene and how you're managing that.
So well said. So technology abstraction is one of the key goals for us, is that what we are communicating and engaging with our business partners is that let's focus on business functions, focus on processes. Let's talk about that. Technology is okay, we'll handle it. And technology will change. You have LLMs now, but the need does not change. What are you trying to achieve, right? Those business functions. So focus on that. Let's streamline those. And we are doing quite a few, I'll probably say, innovations on technology. Like, for example, we are bringing in automation as a service now. Like, we have more than 120 plus bots. So every bot can now be called as a service. That's what we intend to do. So those hands actually can, work quickly and do the function and get back to the application.
Yeah. No, I love those stats. So 120 plus automations, and you did touch upon how you reduce the average handling time. Is there any other outcome which you have achieved, or productivity or revenue growth, or any other outcomes you are planning to achieve through these automations?
Right. So our core focus is going to be more around the lifetime value of our customer. So what are we really giving to our customer? That's very important. Revenue attribution will come as a result of it. You have a happy customer, they like our brands, they like the experience they have with Columbia Sportswear, chances are they're going to use our jackets, right? So a lot of that is, and it is not, I'll probably say that even though they might look like different KPIs, but they kind of work together. They're still very, very connected in a way. So you can achieve all this, of course, by using the technology abstraction, focusing on business functions more.
Right. And I think you did mention that, and I've been told that no discussion is complete if we don't bring GenAI into the conversation now. So
yeah.
I'm probably going to end with what's on the horizon and how you are planning to leverage Amazon generative AI services.
I think AI is more important in my mind. So we are focusing more on LLMs, and not only for our consumer experience, but also for our employee experiences. So that will definitely be a big part. I don't have a perfect answer yet. The whole thing is forming. But we are very clear that we are going to heavily utilize that, especially at the front end, when we are building those experiences, while focusing a lot on automation at the back end, right? So we are going to automate the heck out of it. So we are very clear on that. But use AI as much as possible, and the shapes will be different. Like, we may be discussing a very different concept next 3 to 5 years. I don't know yet. Right. But I can clearly see that LLMs for now is the way to go.
Perfect. At Ben, I would like to actually reserve Dev for next Imagine. I'm sure they're going to be great results he's going to share with us. So Ben, Dev, thanks a lot for your time, a lot to learn, and continue to get engaged. Little bit fun fact, he is actually my alma mater. I just reconnected with him after so many years. So great to chat with you, and thanks a lot for sharing your story.
Thanks, Ajit.
Ben, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
All right. So fantastic point there towards the end about automation's ability to truly drive top-line revenue growth. That was one of the key takeaways, and I think it's something that we all need to keep in mind. With that, I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for attending this session. And let's give it up for our all-star customers and our platinum sponsors.